He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi a great place to live, work, and play. Today we have Bill Cork, the Executive Director for the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. He's a friend of the show. We've had an extended session with Bill when we first started the show, and it's great to have you back. How you doing, buddy?
Well, it's great to be back, and it's good to see you again, Ricky.
I had a conversation with Bill Lavers last week, and he said about you, he said, Cork wants to go to Mars. What did he mean when he said that?
Well, I know he's probably referring to our big space cluster over here in Hancock County, and he's right. So We're headed there, and all things good that go into space come through Hancock County, Mississippi, and Senate Space Center. So we're proud of that.
Well, you've had some big announcements. We're going to cover that. I want to remind people about what your organization is. And before we go any further, let's talk about the important thing at hand, which is the pandemic. So over the weekend, you go to places, some where everyone's wearing a mask and all the employees are wearing a mask, and in some other places you go where no one's wearing a mask. And what I've tried to do on this show is say that if we don't use the tools that are available to us to protect ourselves, then do it to protect the economy. Because if we continue to see numbers continue to creep up, that's most likely going to be the case, unfortunately, at least for the short term, we could end up triggering some mechanisms to have to cause us to have to put the economy on hold again. How much are you concerned about that?
Real concern. This is not over. And I know people are excited. It's summertime. We want to be outside. This hit home, very close to home for us this week. One of my employees tested positive for COVID-19. He had just come off vacation, came back to work with a fever, and we had to send him home. So, you can do everything you can do within the work context to make sure that you're protecting your employees. But then when they go home or they go on vacation or they go out on these social events, they get exposed. And so it's a real concern for us, especially with our business that we do here. We're all in the critical supply chain and logistics business. We can't afford to go down. We've been operational this entire time. And if we shut down because we can't, move freight around, for example, or we have to shut the port down, then that's a major problem. So, it's very, very important to us we keep our folks healthy and that everybody take this very seriously.
Well, as I mentioned, Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission operates on so many different dimensions, and I want to cover that pretty soon, so that people can understand what this is all about. But before we go any further, you had some big news announced. Tell me about that.
Well, despite all of the issues that are in the news these days, and there's certainly a lot of bad news going on in the world, we have some rays of good news. Our big corporations are growing. And this has been a trend that's continued even through the pandemic and the social unrest and all of it. Calgon Carbon, which is owned by the Japanese company Kuraray, is located at Port Bienville, just announced a doubling of their facility. It'll be a $185 million investment, 38 new great paying careers for Mississippians. And this is a project that's been in the works now for years, and we're proudly able to announce it just in the last few days. So foreign direct investment is still strong. We still see a lot of optimism. There's frankly a lot of cash on the table over the last few months because companies have been storing it up, and there's a lot of pent up capital investment demand. Of course, we hope the economy quickly recovers so that these folks can take advantage of it. But real important wins happening still in Mississippi made the national news. Hancock County did with this announcement. So we're very, very pleased to welcome Calgon's additional growth.
Well, one of the things I'm committed to is keeping the focus on the economic developers of coastal Mississippi, yourself, Bill Lavers, George Freeland over in Jackson County, because you're a real good economic indicator for us about what's going to happen in the future. And I think all of you guys, including myself, have been pleasantly surprised at the amount of activity that's going on. And I think it may be George made this point that the conversations, because technology is being utilized today, that since we're not traveling as much, that the conversations have actually lasted longer. And there's more of the conversations, and we're on the phone more than we were before. Are you finding that true in Hancock County as well?
Well, business in the kind of business that George and I and Bill do is very personal. It's based on a lot of personal relationships. People like to look you in the eye. They like to check your body language and see the truth. But those meetings are hard to get. Travel is expensive. It's time consuming. And so they're fewer and farther between. What we've noticed in this era of Zoom and Skype and social media connections is that not only can we get to people more readily, but we get to their staff, their teams. You could put 5-10 people on one of these meetings and in about 30 minutes cover what in some cases might have taken months to get through in terms of working a deal. So I agree with George's assessment. I think we're seeing the same thing. Let me also just say internally, we're finding ourselves more productive in this environment. One of the things we always have a challenge with is trying to get our documents and things through the lawyers and the regulators and those types of folks. And now that they're all working from home and have time on their hands, we seem to be getting a lot more responsiveness. So very proud of it.
So, Bill, this is such an interesting conversation. I have it over and over again that the productivity is up, people are more efficient. I think there won't be any going back 100% to where we were. I think people have been using technology, and you'll find a way to mix face to face with the use of technology to be more effective ultimately, and that's a really good sign. Hey, so Bill, before we get into sort of what you guys are working on before, let's give people an opportunity to be reminded about what your commission is all about. Tell them about the different dimensions you operate on.
Big span of control. We're the central large asset developer here in Hancock County. So the Port and Harbor Commission owns and operates Stennis International Airport. We own and operate the Port Bienville Industrial Park and Maritime interface there. We have a railroad, a short line railroad. And we have economic development responsibility for all of Hancock County, which includes co-marketing with NASA, the Space Center, and the federal activities there. So we have a very large span of control, but we're high speed, low drag. We do most of this with contractors and our great partnerships that we have developed. And so, and we're revenue generating. We don't take any local ad valorem tax, like from the county taxpayers, to fund our operations. We have to eat what we kill, and that makes us kind of unique, financially very solvent. We do take grants from the state, and the federal government to support our infrastructure development, but otherwise, not an operational burden on the county. And we measure our success. We're very transparent. You go to our website at portairspace.com, and you can download our strategies, our budgets, all of that. So very proud of the organization we have here.
So the Port Bienville Industrial Park, one of the critical components are two. One is rail, and the other is access to the Intercoastal Waterway. And then at Stennis International Airport, the 8,500-foot strip there is incredibly important. It can literally accommodate any aircraft in the world. Talk about how strategically important those two things are.
Well, they're huge. I mean, logistics and in all modes of transportation is what our value proposition is here for Hancock County. As you know, a big chunk of the county is in the coastal plain, and another big part of our county is in the buffer zone for Stennis, so it's undevelopable. So we have some bedroom communities in the county, but our real assets are our industrial assets and our logistics advantages, and that's why we see the kind of footprint we have with our chemical plants, manufacturing, aerospace, aviation, and the like. And so a lot of people, I think, would be very surprised to learn that after the government spend, the next highest GDP producing component of our economy is manufacturing. And number three is technology. We develop sensors and software and have supercomputing power over here that's second to none. Most people would not think of us as a high-tech mecca in Hancock County, Mississippi, but that's our third largest contributor to GDP. Tourism is farther down the list. I think it's 4 or 5. So we are a manufacturing and tech mecca right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Real proud of that.
Well, we've talked about this before, but I like to remind people that on one end of coastal Mississippi you have Ingalls and all of the businesses that support Ingalls, and then on the Louisiana side of coastal Mississippi you have Stennis Space Center. and all that it has there. And you've got involvement there big time, actually. And you've been here since 2016, but I bet every day you wake up and say, wow, coastal Mississippi and Mississippi has really a lot of things that are working well for it from an economic development point of view, don't we?
We really do. In fact, yesterday we had an all-day site visit with John Rounsaville, who is the new interim executive director at the Mississippi Development Authority. He came down and spent the day with us, and we gave him a helicopter tour and on-the-ground tours, and really rolled out the red carpet to introduce him to Hancock County. And at the end of the day, he said, "I just can't believe you can remember all this stuff. You have so much going on." And I said, that's the beauty of this role, is that we have so many exciting things happening. It's so diverse and so growth oriented. The community support is fabulous. It's just a great environment to be in.
So look, Bill, we'll come back after after the commercial, and we'll get into some of the things you guys are working on now. But this is Bill Cork, the Executive Director for the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission, and we'll be back after this commercial.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
If a muckety-muck wants you to hear what they gotta say, they come here first and sit down with Gallo and JT. This is ground zero for all Mississippi muckety-mucks. SuperTalk Mississippi. Watch your favorite SuperTalk shows in HD. Just go to supertalktv.com. Ever wonder what goes on in the studio during the shows? Now you can watch what happens in HD. SuperTalk TV, streaming now on supertalktv.com.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Whether you're a rebel, a bulldog, a golden eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, The Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, The SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and The Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Bill Cork with us, the Executive Director of the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. They're sort of the economic development entity for Hancock County and a big team player in the coastal Mississippi economic development effort. So, Bill, why don't we do this? Let's dive in a little bit. I'm curious, what in the world's going on in your world these days?
Well, really, we've had a series of really cool announcements, as we talked about in the last segment. A big announcement with Calgon Carbon, $185 million investment, 38 new jobs. We're excited to announce that, and they're ready to go with groundbreaking here very shortly. So we hope to be able to showcase that. One of the things that has just happened recently in the last couple of weeks is we announced the beginning of a new partnership with Gulf Coast Aviation. It's a Baton Rouge-based company that's coming over here to start what we call Part 141 flight school at Stennis International Airport. And this will allow us to stitch together a public-private venture to train pilots from private pilot rating, from very, no training at all the way through commercial pilot ratings. And that's going to dovetail nicely into the Aerospace and Aviation Academy that Pearl River Community College is set to build right here at Stennis International Airport. So you're going to be able to go on the Stennis Airport campus, where Hancock Middle School and High School are also located. You can start in 7th grade and in a career in aviation and aerospace, start from 7th grade and go all the way to a job, either at Stennis Airport or Stennis Space Center, and really never leave the street you went to school on. So very, very exciting opportunities for career and workforce development in the STEM fields of aviation and aerospace.
Hey, just one quick observation. It's so cool to hear this over and over again, but the community college system in Mississippi is one of the best in the country. And it's great to have a partner like that, isn't it?
It really is. Pearl River Community College, Adam Breerwood, the president up there. I mean, we speak regularly. He comes down to the office. I go up there. We tactically work through the issues associated with the changing dynamics in our industrial environment. The world changes very quickly with technology and innovation, and particularly in the industrial sector. The goal there is fewer jobs, not more, in terms of the way the companies look at it. They want more automation, more efficiency from that standpoint. But that also means that the workers that they do hire have to have enormous talent in terms of maintenance and computer programming and other technical skills that just the traditional maintenance worker didn't have to have in the past. This requires college level and specialty level education, and PRCC has been a great partner with us in pivoting around these workforce issues to help us be successful.
That is really awesome. Again, I hear that all the time. They're so focused on understanding the changing nature of the economy and how they can help tee up education that would be directed at that. And you know what we're learning is that it's not always best for someone to go to a four-year university. Maybe there's another path for them to take, and this is one that people should really look at and consider, because it's just a great collaboration. What else, Bill?
Well, we've got some exciting new news in our maritime aspects. Our channels that serve Port Bienville have not been serviced or dredged since long before Hurricane Katrina, and it's taken a long time to try to get the permitting done on that and to get the money put together. But that dredging will occur starting later this summer and early fall. And why this is important to us is, that limits the traffic. The approaches limit the traffic depending on the depths. And so by getting back to a navigable depth of about 13 feet with about a 15-foot overburden, we can now bring in some of the larger vessels to Port Bienville. And that really opens up the kind of supply chain and logistics capabilities that we can offer our customers. So in addition to the maritime piece, we are embarking on a new partnership with CSX and the Port of New Orleans to develop a dedicated rail shuttle between Port Bienville and the Napoleon Avenue Terminal for international outbound logistics destinations. Today, the park in general ships about 700, we call them boxes or TEUs. These are the containers that go on ships. We ship about 700 of those a week over to Napoleon Avenue Terminal in New Orleans for outbound international destinations. Big exporter at Port Bienville. And trucking and the traffic and the pollution that's associated with that in New Orleans is something that the New Orleans folks really don't like. And so we're trying to figure out how do we get a predictable, reliable shuttle service back and forth between the port of New Orleans and the port of Bienville. And so that's going into play over the next few months as well. It's got great environmental benefits, but also creates cost certainty and additional revenue for the port and great benefits for our tenants in terms of reliability, et cetera. So those are just a couple of the things at the port that are going on.
Hey, real quick before you move on, you talked about the dredging, which, gosh, is that important in terms of having access to the intercoastal waterway. Will you be able to now, once the dredging is complete, be able to do periodic maintenance without having to go through the permitting process? What's the thinking around that?
Yes, in fact, our permits include a multi-year maintenance back end to these permits. So once you do the initial dredge, you can do the maintenance dredging behind it. I don't think a lot of your listeners realize that in order to get into Port Bienville off the intercoastal waterway, you're in Louisiana waters all the way till you get to the Pearl River. And so the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission actually has jurisdiction in Louisiana waters to maintain those dredging permits. And why it makes it complicated is that we have 3 Corps of Engineer districts to deal with: New Orleans, Mobile, and Vicksburg, and 2 state departments of environmental quality and marine resources. So we're in the Bermuda Triangle of regulatory oversight. So while this may seem like not a big headline to maybe some of your listeners, anybody who does this business knows that is a very challenging regulatory environment to work in.
So complex, so complex. Hey, what's the status of you guys' master plan these days?
Well, thanks for raising that issue. We've acquired it between Port Bienville and the airport, almost 3,000 acres of real estate since 2017 to expand our operations. We have huge mega sites available. And 2 years ago, we went about the business of developing master plans to support that new growth and development. We have a project underway, a design contest to build a 15-acre high technology park at Stennis Airport. And the results of that will be presented to our commission in the middle of July. The staff reports are due July 8th. And what we did with this was we competed 2 local architecture firms in a design contest to try to figure out who could give us the most exciting new design for a tech park. And then whoever wins that design contest will take that through a preliminary design, and then we'll go raise the money and build it out. We already have about 3 anchor tenants that we're looking at and 2 prospects. So this isn't just speculation. This is something that's actually going to happen over the next couple of years.
It's amazing, though, how when you really think long and hard about strategic planning, you understand your strengths and weaknesses and how all that fits together, where you can accentuate your strengths and overcome your weaknesses. It really does create a process for you to really think about where opportunities lie and where we can go from here. And it's great to see you guys have been focused on that. And there's a little bit of time we have left. Why don't you talk about why the spaceport concept is really important?
Right, and so for your listeners who don't know, we currently have a licensing process going on with the Federal Aviation Administration to license Stennis International Airport as a spaceport. And what that means is you'll be able to take rockets will be mounted to the bottom of airplanes. The propellant will be loaded into the rockets, will take off over the Gulf of Mexico into the Florida Straits. The rocket will fall off the plane and then launch into orbit. And then the plane can recover from there. We can also use the airport for space tourism, where vehicles can be launched off the airport and you can kind of go up and be weightless and then come back down and land at the airport if there's a market for that. And so we're very excited because, Stennis Space Center is a preeminent part of the NASA portfolio. We have great commercial space companies operating there. We see the airport as being a companion to that cluster around space. It's going to be a few years off because of the way the permitting and everything works, but we will be and when we get this permit, we'll be about one of a dozen spaceports in the United States to have this designation and put us really at the top of the pack for the future growth in space travel.
Well, let's face it. I mean, space exploration, space development efforts aren't going to decrease. We're just going to see them continue to go up, up, up. in terms of their number and their importance. People are really focused on it these days. And of course, Stennis and the role that Stennis plays in all that, my goodness, it can't be understated how important that is. And I always go back, man, the people that had the vision to create that buffer zone, that facility, goodness gracious, that they had to really be visionaries, didn't they?
Well, I'm still amazed. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday where we put up on the screen the 1960s master plan for Stennis Space Center, and to see exactly how much of that has been lived out and where we are today, 50 plus years later, really, really amazing. Those are some smart folks back then.
Woo, man, I see it over and over again. I talked with Bill Labors about the Industrial Seaway 60 years ago. Somebody had the vision to dig that. I mean, my goodness, and we're all enjoying the fruits of those efforts today. Bill Cork, has been terrific to visit with you. We'll be back to you in a few weeks just to kind of check in. We'll stay in touch with you.
Thank you, Rick. It's always a pleasure to visit with you.
You bet. Keep up the great work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A compassionate young man who became a dinner companion for a stranger makes today's Dean's List. Lisa Mealander and her family had been eating at the Eaton Park in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, when she noticed how her server was interacting with a senior patron. The server, Dylan Teetle, had dropped to one knee so he could give his full attention to the gentleman. Lisa wrote on Facebook, "The man apologized for not hearing well, and he talked about how he lost his hearing during the war. He was 91 years old with many stories to tell, and Dylan patiently listened, giving him his full attention. He also helped the man figure out a meal from the menu before putting the order into the kitchen." Lisa tried to flag Dylan down so she could offer to pay for the man's meal. Dylan said someone else had already taken care of the check. Before leaving her table, Lisa snapped pictures of Dylan chatting with the senior and published them to Facebook, where they have been since shared thousands of times. Thank you, Dylan, for your kindness, and Lisa for sharing this story with all of us. Janice Dean, Fox News.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. Staying informed is a full-time job, even more so during an election year. That's why SuperTalk is here. With Fox News, News Mississippi, and the Super Talkers, you'll go inside the campaigns, and we'll separate what's real from what's not to bring you the latest information that matters. From now until you go into the voting booth on November 3rd, your election headquarters is Super Talk, Mississippi. Available on the Super Talk app and at supertalk.fm. From the Gallo Radio Show archives.
In the house, Mike Hurst.
When I started at the end of 2017, sadly, our office had gotten so low during the last administration. I think in FY16, we prosecuted 11 illegal immigration cases, 11, which is embarrassing. First year I was there, we had jumped almost 700% to 77 prosecutions. And Paul, that number I think is going to increase very much more this year. We are continuing to see illegal immigration impact crime around the state. I'll give you a perfect example. About a month ago, we prosecuted an illegal alien who had brought 9 kilos of heroin and 1 kilo of fentanyl through our state. Now, to give your listeners an idea of what 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will do, that will wipe out 1 million people, Paul. That'll wipe out a third of our state.
This has been another Gallo Radio Show audio archive.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun-Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. That was a terrific conversation with Bill Cork, Executive Director of the Hancock Economic Development Effort, Hancock County Economic Development Effort. I love talking to our economic development people because as you heard from Bill, if you missed it, you can go to the Facebook page, Super Talk Gulf Coast, and see that conversation. But all of our economic development people are saying the same thing, that activity continues to move forward. In some respects, it's actually picked up some. They all have good and in some cases incredible announcements that they've made or that they will be making in the near future. It's great to see that, and Bill is no exception to that conversation. Now let's turn the page and move over to Cynthia Dobbs-Sutton. She's the Executive Director for Ocean Springs Chamber of Commerce and also the Main Street Tourism Bureau in Ocean Springs. Cynthia, how are you doing? Welcome back.
Doing good. Staying busy out there with everything going on.
Yeah, so we just had a rainy weekend, 4th of July weekend, but people still found ways to have fun, and that's important. I think the one thing that I do on my show every time, and that is continue to focus on the coronavirus situation. With the rain and all, people were going inside. I think, across the coast, too many are not wearing masks when they should be wearing masks, and you hear the governor screaming. There could be some statewide requirement around all this, but the reason to wear a mask is not for people to tell you what to do. It's the reason to wear a mask is so we can keep our economy open, that the numbers continue to inch up. That's going to be a real problem for us. And there's all these mixed messages out there. Do you hear that yourself?
Yeah, I do. Things kind of calmed down for a few weeks. So I think that skewed a lot of people's perception, thinking that things were getting back to normal. But unfortunately, it looks like it's going to stay around for a while.
Well, what we saw is, and this is what the governor talked about last week, what we saw is Memorial Weekend happened just as they were beginning to open up the economy. And so people were starting this pent-up demand. They wanted to get out and do things, and they had parties, and they went to sandbars, and they did whatever they did. And so there's a little bit of a delayed reaction. Once they did what they did, it took a week or two for it to sort of play out and start to really reflect, poorly in the numbers. You know, the main thing is if we really want people to not have to be in a situation where we're rolling back on the economic reopening, then they've really got to start paying attention to social distancing and wearing a mask and all that. That's such a clear message, and it's going to be forced back on businesses if they don't follow the rules. If they have to follow the rules. I'm sure you hear that every day.
Right, we do. And, because of that, we want everybody to stay safe. Ocean Springs is a very popular and busy location for commerce, for tourism, for activities, for events. So we are actually working with the Singing River Health System, and we're kind of revitalizing and bringing back kind of the campaign to kind of remind everybody of the rules and regulations, just to encourage them to wear masks a little more, as they serve their customers, or as a visitor comes into town, know that when you come into our visitor center, you have to wear a mask and things like that. So we're working on a campaign to kind of remind everybody of those rules and encourage them to take a little more precaution.
I hope we get to a point soon where, a couple of casinos now require not only their employees, but anyone who comes into a casino to wear a mask. The city of Biloxi now requires all employees that have any contact with the community to wear a mask. And of course, there's a lot of businesses out there that are wearing masks anytime they interact with employees. And we just need more people to follow those rules, because an uptick in the numbers, if we continue to see hospitalizations go up and we continue to see the number of people in ICU units going up, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a real problem. So I talked to Lee Bond in the past week or so from Singing River Health Systems, and I've talked to Kent Nico from Memorial, and Dr. Nicholas Conger, who is a infectious disease doctor. He's been on the show several times, and they all say the same thing. We know what the tools are. We just need to use them. And it's not a hoax, is it, Cynthia?
No, not at all. I mean, recent cases, even our neighboring city, Biloxi, is beginning to see some of, their cases going up with a recent City Hall report. We hope we can say safe over here in Ocean Springs, but yeah, those cases are rising, and, we hope that our local businesses and our community pay attention to that. And we're going to do everything that we can to kind of help encourage that.
Well, we'll switch gears now. I'm curious, before we get into the laundry list of things that are going on inside the chamber, how's the renovations of the historic train depot going?
It's going. It's just that time period with it being 113 years old that there are some things that are still happening with it. We redid some of the floors. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. We put a new roof on. We did some ceiling work recently, and now we're working with the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, because it is a designated landmark, to do some work on the outside of the building, painting, and just bringing that gorgeous little guy back to life.
Well, that's awesome. You told me before COVID, you guys would get 400 to 500 visitors a month through the visitor center. How's that going? You've seen a pickup now?
We have seen a pickup. The numbers are nowhere near 400 to 500 right now, but we are seeing a small, steady flow of visitors, both local and tourists, coming in those visitor center every day. Now, of course, on the weekend, we have our fresh market that has been going the whole time to help people with produce and fun ways to get their groceries. We still have that. We're seeing the increase at that venue as well, which is right outside the visitor center. But yep, we are getting more visitors coming in, doing local drive-in distant vacations, and folks that are just wanting to get out of their house, go somewhere to eat, stay in a fun little cottage in downtown, and just, ride their bikes, go to the beach, just do some family-friendly, safe things. So we are seeing more visitors come into town. And I'll tell you this real quick, Ricky, that we have, 100 restaurants in town, and numerous boutiques and galleries around town. And more than 50% of their business is the tourist traffic. So it's very important for us to keep ourselves on the mind of visitors even during this time.
One of the things I'm seeing, and one of the things I talk about a lot on this show, is that, first of all, before the pandemic, 80% of the people who visited coastal Mississippi came here by car. And since people are going to be a little bit leery to fly, that we should actually begin to see the number of people who drive in actually grow. So that's a reality. So hopefully that will continue. But the other thing is that people from coastal Mississippi and across Mississippi have been using this as an opportunity to kind of get reacquainted with their state. So you get a lot more people doing staycations, people from Ocean Springs going over to see Old Town Bay St. Louis, and people from Bay St. Louis driving over to Ocean Springs. Just with the staycation part of this, these little towns can get overwhelmed pretty quickly, can't they? I mean, that's awesome to see.
Yes, they can. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. We all work together with the chamber. I work with the chambers and the tourism functions along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And we've all kind of seen that traffic flow. So it's really cool. And in Ocean Springs, our restaurants are still encouraged to keep those social distancing, the tables spaced out, and they are already hitting their social distancing guideline capacities because people just want to enjoy our Gulf Coast life.
That's great to see. And they can enjoy it if they use the tools, and they'll be able to continue to enjoy it if we can somehow keep the COVID numbers down and get people to see that the face mask is one of the most important tools we have. One of the things I hate to see when people post that face mask doesn't work. I hate to see that because we know all the experts agree that it's one of our best lines of defense, isn't it?
That's right. And if nothing else, if they do believe, this conversation that you've said, it protects other people. Just wearing it helps to keep it away from other people. So people need to think of that too.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so Cynthia, what we're going to do, we're getting close to the break now. But what I want to do when we come back is talk about events. What's your current thinking about the events? And then, how, when you talk to your local businesses, how are they doing? What are they telling you? How are things going?
Yeah.
They're so dependent on each other, as you know. And, when they work together, you create the experience of Ocean Springs, so to speak.
Right.
So anyway, this is Cynthia Dobbs Sutton, the Executive Director for the Ocean Springs Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Tourism Bureau. And we'll come back on the other side of this and really talk about their efforts to build a stronger Ocean Springs, and especially as it relates to events. We're really going to zero in on that just a bit because the events are such an important part of what the city's all about. We'll be back after this break.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go be Elvis." And he stood up, in a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have two risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Cynthia Dobbs-Sutton from the Ocean Springs Chamber and also Main Street Tourism Bureau. It's been a wonderful conversation. So events. Mm-hmm. Events are such an important part of Ocean Springs. How are you guys getting your arms around that?
Yeah, I mean, it is a day by day, week by week process. You know, it's frustrating in general because we do have to make these changes. Ocean Springs is known as a festival town. That's what we do. It's not just for a party, but it also helps generate revenue and traffic to our local businesses. So we've had to slow down on that aspect of what we do in the community and as an organization. So we've had to make a lot of changes to what we do. You know, we had the Spring Arts Festival that we hope to move to August, and we're still working on those details, what will happen with that event. You know, we've canceled Taste of Ocean Springs. We've canceled Blueberry Festival. A lot of our summer events that generate traffic and revenue, we've had to put a hold on. But we're focusing a little different way. We're focusing on still some of our good community events that help generate traffic still, but in a safe way. Like we have coming up the July sidewalk sale at the end of July. And that's where our merchants kind of clear out their summer inventory, get ready for back to school, and offer major specials and fun. So that's an easy way to still get some traffic in town, as long as those businesses work with those CDC guidelines and the social distancing, which I'm telling you, our retailers are amazing in that venue. We have several of our retailers that actually sell face masks for a very good price. You know, there's signage on many of our shop owners' doors reminding locals and visitors what those guidelines are, what the rules are, how many can be let in the building during this time. So I think we're taking some really good steps to still have some of our events on a very cautious level, but keep the traffic in the community going in general because of all that. So that'd be one kind of fun, kind of safe, easy event to have in our community.
You know, the art community is really important to Ocean Springs, and I had 2 conversations over the last couple of days, not on the show, off the air, with artists who are really struggling right now. I mean, really struggling.
Yep.
So what can we do to help the artist community?
Well, you know, we're trying. Ocean Springs is known for its art. We love our artists, and we try to do everything that we can to help them. Some people don't understand that during this time, artists are suffering. What they do, festivals, selling their artwork, that is their business. They may not have a storefront like some of these retailers do, but this is their business, and they are suffering substantially. I talked to an artist recently that wants to be a part of the Peter Anderson Festival. We're taking that day by day, to see if that's going to happen. We hope there's still some ways we can make some of that happen. But these artists are suffering, struggling. They are not sure what their future is as well. So many are hanging in there right now, but we don't know how much longer they can hang in there. So we're trying to do.
Yeah, Cynthia, what I've noticed is those that have a really strong social media following are doing fairly well. They're using social media as a way to stay connected and to sell their wares. So, if you have an artist out there that doesn't have a strong social media following, that would be a good way to start. And I'm sure they could reach out to you guys, and you would give them whatever advice you could give them to help them sort of keep it going.
We sure can. Yeah. Any of our artists, local artists, any artists to any festivals, we would be delighted to help them with their social media presence, because just like you said, that's very important. We've noticed that for our retailers too. And I'm not sure if we mentioned this last time, but we might have, that a lot of our businesses just didn't really have a lot of digital or social media presence. And this pandemic has forced many of those businesses and, some of the artists in that direction, that you have to have a website, you have to have Instagram, some form of social media to get that out there. And one interesting thing, we have a business that moved locations over these last couple of months, and they're, opening to the public last week, but then they're going to have a ribbon cutting just to tell everybody where they're located. We'll be cautious with that. But one of the cool things that I heard from them is they, and as well as other businesses, with that new social media and that website presence that developed during the virus, they still had majorly successful months in April and May.
Wow, that's awesome. That's the reason why you did talk about it, but it's always good to say it again, that these trends, the fact that there should have been a presence already before the pandemic, because all trends were moving in that direction, it really sped up those trends. And you guys saw that, and that technology was going to be one of the key ways that businesses could still keep some volume going by connecting with their customers, and that's really important. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, we found some creative ways too. We're going to start doing a lot of more virtual and digital components to what we do in Ocean Springs to kind of keep that out there.
So in the short time we have left, what other things are you guys working on?
Okay, well, we did some cool things. We want to make sure that tourists still keep Ocean Springs on their mind. So we've done a fun series of things. We've got a new tour guide out there. We did a new commercial that hopefully we'll be pushing on some outer market outlets soon, just to keep Ocean Springs on the mind of folks and individuals. We have Breakfast with the Mayor coming back up. And the cool thing is that's also now totally virtual. We're working with the Singing River Health System on that. We'll be inside the Singing River Health System broadcasting live to the community. So that is a really cool thing that we're kind of adapting. We've made some changes. The Walter Anderson Museum of Art just opened up with all its rules and parameters. So we're going to begin to tell that story. So a lot of things going on. Like I said, some of our events coming up, the July Sidewalk Sale, Breakfast with the Mayor, and some other, fun things getting ready. Art Walk is a good one as well.
Well, that's awesome, and y'all keep up the great work. Julian Rankin was on my show not long ago, and he's the executive director for the Walter Anderson Museum. What a treasure he is for Ocean Springs and for the nonprofit community just in general. He's a good thinker, he's passionate, and perfect fit for the Walter Anderson Museum. Hey, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
This has been Cynthia Dobbs-Sutton, the executive director of the Ocean Spring Chamber and Main Street Tourism Bureau as well. So we'll see you later. Have a great day.
Thanks.